Because at the end of the day, America is going to want a president who is a decent human being, who doesn't shit on other people, who has some interest in the American people, some interest in something beyond himself. I think at the end of the day, people are going to reject this bigoted, divisive figure.
I'm just giving you the answer to the question you're asking all night long. Why do they vote for Donald Trump? It's not always because they like him. No, it's because stuff like that is kookier.
Bill Maher delivered a blistering takedown of Adam Schiff, sharply ridiculing the California senator for his ongoing and apparently ineffective crusade against Donald Trump. The critique was so fierce, it's hard to imagine Schiff making another appearance on Maher's show anytime soon. If you appreciate unfiltered commentary like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated.
The only thing he cares about is himself and money, and going after the money is a way to bring about.
Adam Schiff kicked off the evening with his signature barrage against Donald Trump, painting him as a self-obsessed narcissist fixated solely on his own agenda. Holding nothing back, Schiff declared Trump clearly guilty and theatrically proclaimed him unfit to lead the country. Framing Trump as a grave threat to democracy, he warned that a second term would spell disaster. It was vintage Schiff, rhetorically forceful, light on hard evidence, and full of political theater. But the night's most memorable moment was still ahead, a bold statement from Schiff that could come back to haunt him.
I don't share your pessimism about this or your pessimism about the general election. The reason why Joe Biden is going to beat Donald Trump is because at the end of the day, America is going to want a president who is a decent human being, who doesn't shit on other people, who has some interest in the American people, some interest in something beyond himself. I think at the end of the day, people are going to reject this bigoted, divisive.
Schiff doubled down on his anti-Trump tirade, hurling every insult in his arsenal in a last-ditch effort to discredit the former president. But the moment that's likely coming back to haunt him is his confident prediction that Joe Biden would cruise to an easy win. Flash forward to today, and that claim hasn't aged well. Donald Trump is now president, and Schiff's overconfidence has spectacularly blown up in his face, leaving him scrambling for damage control. It's political karma in action, and frankly, watching it unfold has been nothing short of satisfying. As Schiff's rant wore thin, Bill Maher tried to keep a straight face, but Stephen A. Smith, he didn't bother hiding his reaction.
I'm just getting tired of seeing so much stuff targeted in his direction, but somehow, some way he still survives. I mean, we're talking about a situation where he's still going to be the GOP nominee. He's still going to be running for president. You're President Biden. That's the individual that you're going to have to beat. 4 indictments, 91 counts. They ain't even bringing up the bankruptcies, ain't even bringing up this particular issue with this civil case, and somehow, some way, he puts cats to shame because he clearly has more than 9 lives.
Before Bill Maher even steps onto the stage, Stephen A. Smith charges in, no gloves, no filter. He unloads on Adam Schiff and his political cohorts, slamming their years-long campaign to bring down Donald Trump. From media blitzes and non-stop investigations to digging up decades-old controversies and comparing him to history's worst villains, they've tried it all. Trump has been labeled a dictator, a danger to democracy, and the root of every national crisis. And yet, through it all, he hasn't just endured, he's flourished. Defying every prediction, he remains a dominant force, louder, tougher, and more defiant than ever. He's the unsolvable puzzle that continues to torment Democrats and their media allies. Each time they think they've buried him, he bounces back stronger. Like him or not, there's no denying it. Trump has become the political mystery they can't decode, and it's clearly driving them to the edge. The anti-Trump spectacle has grown stale. That's when Maher finally enters, and all hell breaks loose.
The Atlantic put out an article last year, and it was called "Separating Sports by Doesn't Make Sense." Right. And talked about how we separate sports like the WNBA just because it's just socialization. This is insane.
I agree.
Okay. That's why people vote for Trump. Mm-hmm. Because there's stuff like that on the left that people just go, I know Trump's horrible, but separating by sports by makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. And if you think it doesn't...
Maher didn't waste a moment cutting to the core. He laid it out bluntly for Adam Schiff. This is exactly why people keep voting for Donald Trump. No spin, no sugarcoating. He took aim at Democrats for promoting empty policies, clinging to outdated ideologies, and losing touch with the concerns of everyday Americans. In doing so, he argued, they're not weakening Trump, they're powering him. One glaring example? The Democrats pushed to blur biological distinctions in sports, advocating for men and women to compete on the same field. To many Americans, it wasn't just tone deaf, it felt like an insult to common sense. But instead of reconsidering, Democrats brushed off the backlash as bigotry and doubled down, charging forward. Maher's message was clear: this kind of ideological overreach doesn't win hearts, it drives people away. It doesn't energize voters, it alienates them. And in that vacuum, Trump gains ground. Because when voters are forced to choose between ideological chaos and someone who, at the very least, appears rooted in reality, they'll choose reality every time.
Take the opposite view. I don't think he should have given the pardons at all.
Really?
No, I don't think he should have, and I was vocal about that at the time.
Can you refuse a pardon?
That's less clear because in the case of the January 6th committee, he pardoned essentially the whole.
Wait, did Senator Adam Schiff just throw President Biden under the bus? It sure sounded that way. Schiff, a prominent figure on the controversial January 6 committee, was quietly granted a pardon, alongside others from the panel that spent months pointing fingers and declaring guilt over the Capitol riot. But here's the twist: if the committee's work was truly above board, if their conclusions were airtight and justified, why did Biden feel the need to issue preemptive pardons at all? Now, Schiff is downplaying the pardon like it was no big deal, subtly suggesting Biden may have jumped the gun, without saying it outright. Still, the subtext is loud and clear. In trying to shield himself from political blowback, Schiff inadvertently casts doubt on the very president who covered for him. It's classic Washington doublespeak: take the lifeline when it helps you, then act like it never happened when things get uncomfortable. Schiff may think he's walking a fine line, but the cracks are starting to show, and you can bet the Biden team isn't thrilled with how it looks. Bill Maher doesn't let it slide. He calls Schiff out, then turns his sights on the mainstream media, torching them for once again abandoning objectivity in favor of partisan spin.
So the FBI came in and arrested the judge. No, I haven't heard that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I've ever read arrested a judge. So is this significant?
Well, I think
I'm not going to comment on something I don't know more about than what you've just told me.
You read about it too.
Yeah, I mean, I read about it, but I don't know.
So you don't trust anything either, and you work for the New York Times.
Even Bret Stephens, yes, a columnist at the New York Times, can't fully trust his own newsroom's reporting. Let that sink in. When a respected insider begins casting doubt on the headlines crafted by his own colleagues, it's a sign that the rot goes deeper than most want to admit. And that's exactly why Trump and millions of Americans have turned their backs on legacy media, choosing instead to seek out the hard truth elsewhere. To many, it feels like the nation's major news outlets have been hijacked, particularly by the left. Institutions once revered for holding power to account now seem more interested in protecting political narratives than pursuing facts. It's a bitter realization. Journalism, once the bedrock of democracy, now often resembles political theater masked as reporting. And every time a once trusted voice falters, another illusion collapses. For a growing number of Americans, this only reinforces what they've suspected all along. If you're searching for the truth, don't expect to find it echoed inside the establishment. You'll have to look beyond it.
Catholic schools are popular now, even with people who aren't Catholic. It's the last place you can send your kid to get an old school education. And they just tell the kids, forget about the Jesus stuff. Just, to them, that's okay indoctrination, as opposed to some of the other indoctrination that goes on. And also, the Catholics don't put up with bullshit. They take your phone. You have to learn your P's and Q's and your grammar and all this kind of stuff. And that's what I just don't understand, that parents don't have the whip hand anymore. Not that you should actually use.
We all remember when the unraveling began, when Democrats fully embraced woke ideology and abandoned both morality and basic common sense. That was the turning point, the moment the cultural fabric began to fray. Suddenly, children were elevated to near-adult status, while parents, especially fathers, were reduced to walking punchlines. Just turn on any family sitcom from the past decade: the clueless dad, the mildly competent mom, and the sharp-tongued kid who somehow knows better than both. What started as harmless humor slowly evolved into something more insidious. Entertainment became indoctrination. The result? A generation taught that rules are flexible, respect is outdated, and consequences are optional. Discipline became taboo. The family structure, once the moral anchor of society, was pushed aside, replaced by virtue signaling and performative progressivism. Now we're living with the consequences. And it's cost the Democrats dearly. The loss in the 2024 election didn't come out of nowhere. Even some within their own ranks admitted, as the tide turned, that this was a reckoning they never saw coming.
Respect the fact that you don't share my pessimism. I truly do. I understand where you're coming from. But I think that's part of the problem. I think the Democratic Party should share my pessimism. I think they should be on high alert. I think they need to treat him with the seriousness that it deserves, because you having a lot of faith in the American people. The man did get over 74 million votes. You've got people that are looking at Joe Biden. I'm not going to call him a cognitive mess or anything like that. That's very disrespectful. I would never speak about our president that way. But when you're 82 years of age, it's not offensive to say you're no longer a spring chicken and you don't see.
Beyond their fringe ideologies, Adam Schiff and his allies spent years insisting Joe Biden was mentally fit to lead. Despite growing bipartisan concern and mounting signs of cognitive decline, they stuck to the script, deflecting, denying, and dismissing what millions saw unfolding in real time. Don't worry, they said. But we should have .b why the time the truth pierced through the political spin, the damage was done. Biden wasn't the leader the moment required, and the party knew it. Enter the scramble. Their fix. Kamala Harris. In a desperate bid to salvage credibility, they elevated her, only to watch the strategy backfire spectacularly. Her approval ratings collapsed, her public appearances became meme material, and whatever leadership they hoped for only deepened the crisis. The so-called party of strategy had no strategy at all. What remains is a political mess of their own creation, from championing fringe causes and sidelining common sense, to standing behind an unfit president and doubling down with an even less popular VP. Along the way, they alienated the very voters they once relied on. The frustration voiced by Bill Maher and Stephen A. Smith points to something deeper. Americans are done. Done with the gaslighting, the choreographed performances, the endless blame games. Trump's resilience isn't just about him, it's about a nation fed up with being lied to. The left tried to control the narrative. But facts have a way of cutting through the noise, and now, even their own are starting to question the story they once swore by. That's it for today's video. If this struck a chord, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more straight talk. Thanks for watching. See you next time.